I just got, man, you still didn't get it?
Hey, yeah.
Oh, shit. Still no? You got another email?
Yeah, hang on. It's so weird. Go to dangadboys190@gmail.com.
dangadboys190@gmail.
Yep. So weird.
Okay, just sent that.
Log in there. That's right.
4 minutes here. Not working. That's by the way. That's what I put.
I don't have it at either email right now.
Did you get that yet or no?
No, I haven't gotten it at either email.
What the fuck? Oh, that's not live.
Can you send it to the? Can you like copy and paste it and send it to the chat, the Hangout?
Oh, thanks. Me? I just forwarded you mine.
To which email?
Both.
Okay, I just got yours to my other email. Hang on.
2.5.
Close. Mute myself. Hey, Barry, I think I'm waiting.
Oh, really? All right, we're going to 20 anyway, so good luck.
Perfect timing.
Blog Talk Radio.
All right, Blog Talk Radio live here on YouTube TV. This is live in the Western Massachusetts studio of Capital Region Studio. Dan, how's it going tonight?
It's going, man. Your audio is cutting out a little bit there. Hold on. Alt A.
He's cutting out?
Sorry. Yeah, we're both cutting out, I think. Can you hear me?
I hear you fine. Yeah, I hear you
All right,
fine.
cool. All right, sorry. Technical. No, the Capital Region is quiet after a long weekend, so excited to get to it today.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in the world right now. We got to bring a lot of normally would be with us right now. He's on assignment, as I like to say, but he'll be back with us at about the bottom of the hour, probably around 7:30. So a lot to talk about. There are protests around the country that have flared up. The president just spoke a short time ago at the White House. Had a say that the world is just sort of in a. We've been through this crazy year. It's June 1st, and this year has been bananas. That there's an end in sight at this point.
Now, it's been a wild year, and it seems like when you cross one hurdle, the next really seems to get bigger and scarier and more dangerous. So, and we're only at June 1. So, I think the road ahead of us is going to be a long one.
Yeah, I would agree. And I was trying to get some sound here. The president spoke in the Rose Garden just a few minutes ago, and I thought that this sound would make it in time for the show, but it doesn't look like it did. Essentially, the president addressing the issues that we've seen across the country for the last few nights has said that he said earlier on a phone call with the nation's governors that if they do not restore order in the street, the president will use the United States military to do that. The president has had a couple of occasions to speak about this situation. We'll give you just back on
Healing,
Saturday.
not hatred, justice, not chaos, are the mission at hand.
President there on Saturday. That was when he was in the Space Coast of Florida last week, and this has been now what is about a week of chaos. The situation now, I think everybody's seen it. Everybody's aware of it. The arrest in Minneapolis, Minnesota, at the hands of the police there, and I think everybody's seen it. And I can't imagine that there's any point in debating it because everybody's been pretty disturbed by it.
Yeah, Barry, I don't know if people can hear you because your connection's pretty rough over there, man. You're cutting out quite a bit. But I think, overall, the crazy part in this is largely people aren't disagreeing that this police officer was wrong, and this police officer should be charged and most likely should be going to jail. So I guess I struggle a little bit, as the, almost middle-aged white man in the room, with what do we – how we don't disagree. What are we riding for? We agree we need to change. We agree this guy should be in jail. We agree that the 3 surrounding officers should be punished. Nobody's disagreeing with that. So why are we crushing businesses in our areas? Why are we, taking a very fragile economy and just making it crumble? I just don't understand the thought process behind it.
I'm gonna just go ahead and I'm gonna execute something here live. I'm gonna try switching my connection, Dan.
I think we all appreciate that. I know you're talking right now, but nobody can hear you. So you go ahead and do that. I'm going to take the driver's seat for a second and talk for a minute about these riots and the protesting. I think the craziest thing in all for me is the people being arrested are the white people. This isn't I think you want to look at this as a black versus white, race war. Just around the corner from me in Albany, a kid from my town was arrested for throwing a brick at a police officer. That was a white 21-year-old who got arrested for that. The kid who got arrested for burning the state house in Nashville was a white kid. This is the people who are desecrating what happened to George Floyd and diminishing what that means are white people. That's the problem. It's us, man. It is the white Antifa, the white liberals who are going out and absolutely destroying any progress that we're trying to make on racial change. Yeah, it's a lot better. See if it sticks.
This is fun. We're doing this. This is live. This is about as live as it gets. So now you can hear me on YouTube again, and you can hear me on Blog Talk. That's great. All right. Well, hey, listen, I think your point is well taken. I want to back up a couple of steps. I want to go back to the arrest of George Floyd. Not that I think people are lost as to what went on there, but I think if you don't watch the video and you don't take in the injustice that took place, I think it's hard to get properly pissed off about it. So I think you got to set it up. You have to frame this whole conversation around the question of, are you pissed off enough or are you pissed off too much? And I think that's where the axle of this whole thing turns. So, we go back to the arrest. This is an arrest, by the way. George Floyd arrested for apparently trying to pass a bad check. I guess that's really what the genesis of all this was. So he was passing a bad check.
Get in the car, man.
I will.
Get in the car.
I can't move.
I've been waiting the whole time, man.
And then that sound you hear, I don't know if that's Derek Chauvin, the officer who's been arrested for murder, or one of the other officers there, but you have a big cop kneeling on this guy's neck, and somebody there on the scene keeps telling him at the same time to get in the car. And Floyd is obviously disoriented. He's obviously in pain. He's obviously handcuffed, and he's not a damn threat to anybody. And the scene continues on for almost 10 painful minutes.
Get in the car.
Mama.
Get up and get in the car right.
I can't.
Gave y'all the opportunity to get in, bro. I told you can't win.
My knee.
You can't
My neck.
win, man.
I'm through.
I know you didn't never. You didn't listen.
I got the booby. My stomach hurts. My neck hurts. Everything hurts. There's water or something. Please. I can't breathe.
I don't know what kind of a depraved, miserable, rotten, evil human being you have to be to listen to that and not react.
That is gut-wrenching. Absolutely
it's
gut-wrenching.
It's disgusting. And now, having said that, those 4 officers subsequently on May 26th, the day after Floyd's death, were fired. The president came out and said that the FBI would get involved if there were not charges brought by the state. And on May 29th, Derek Chauvin was charged with third-degree murder and arrested on that charge. A lot of debate about whether that third-degree murder charge is appropriate, although we know today from the family attorney that an autopsy that was ordered by the family showed that Floyd died as a result of asphyxiation from the pressure on his neck. And I assume that will lead to an upgrade to probably murder 2. I don't know the intricacies of Minnesota law, and I know that prosecutors are not going to want to take this thing to court and lose, but murder 3 feels pretty light.
I mean, a couple of things to point out here, and I am not a law professor, so take from this what you will. One, I think intent is very important with the murder charge. Did he go out that day with the intention of killing Floyd? I think that's a question to ask. And I think, the other piece of it here is on a defense side, is there any way this guy gets a fair trial? I mean, the court of public opinion is decided. It's done. Are you going to find 9 jurors in Minnesota who don't know enough about this already or haven't made a decision already? That's going to be impossible.
Well, you're going to need 12. I'm not sure you can find 9, but you're going to need 12.
Right. But, I think this guy's done. And he should be, by the way. I'm not saying he shouldn't be. But from a legal side of things, how can you charge him? How can you present it? And how can you find a balanced jury? Whoever the jury is, that defense attorney is going to say that they're tainted, that this jury pool, no matter where they go, there's riots in L.A., riots in Albany, New York. Where are you going to find
Columbus,
a jury
Ohio.
pool that
right? You name it.
Where are you going to find a jury pool that doesn't make the decision already? And look, I'm not saying this guy shouldn't be locked up for the rest of his life. Absolutely, he should, but. From a legal side of things, this is going to be a very interesting process.
Well, the other side of the coin, and we can talk about this a little bit as we go, but as you look at situations, and this to me is very reminiscent of Rodney King in 1992 in a lot of ways, the subsequent unrest that could result from something like Chauvin not going to jail is actually even a little bit scarier than where we are right now. Just to bring it around, if you want to join us on this conversation, it's 516-387-1866 is a telephone number. You can also find us on Twitter at Daily Shot Talks. At Daily Shot Talks. That's the place to interact with us. And we've got a few things that we want to talk about. There's a lot of layers to this onion because lost in all of this, and I heard from George Floyd's brother today, who was somewhat outraged by the violence that's playing out in American cities, saying that this is not at all what George Floyd would have wanted as a human being. By all accounts, he sounds like a decent human being who may or may not have been passing a bad check and certainly didn't deserve to be murdered.
A bad $20 bill.
Is that what it was?
$20 bill. That's what they're saying. 100%, man. And look, and I go back to, I truly believe the majority of these protesters want change, and they are being peaceful, and they do want the right things. Right around the corner from me in Schenectady, the Schenectady police chief came out, had a great conversation with the people. Schenectady PD took a knee with the protesters. They marched with the protesters, which is what we need. We need unity. And I think far and wide, the African-American community wants that, and they want justice, and they want to be treated fairly, and that's not a lot to ask for. The problem is that as soon as night falls, these Antifa thugs, these garbage human beings, are tearing apart their message, and that's the problem. And I just, that's what we need to
You hear some sound there from the other night when the 3rd police precinct in Minnesota was burning the other night. As you said, when night fell in the city, trouble certainly came.
Absolutely. I think I give George Floyd's brother a lot of credit for coming out and making a statement. And, there's people that I strongly disagree with politically who have come out in opposition to this. Omar in Minnesota, who is somebody that I strongly dislike, even she came out and said, look, we can't be doing this. This is part of the problem. And I give her credit for doing that. We didn't see that at AOC in New York City, but what do you expect?
Well, there's a lot of political discussion to be had here. And in some ways, when you play the death of George Floyd, when you listen to this man die, and you understand the context of it,
mother, by the way.
It is gut-wrenching. But you listen to that, and then you start to talk about some of these political issues that surround it. If you feel like it cheapens it a little bit, but it's part of the conversation, and I think it's part of where we have to go. The mayor of St. Paul the other day tried to say that all of the people who were arrested inciting violence on Friday night were from outside of Minnesota. That turned out to be completely false. And I think you got to look at some of the political motivations of some of the people. As you said, Omar in Minnesota has come out and sort of spoken out against this violence. I think the mayor of New York City has been incredibly week on this. People who just a few weeks ago had no problem using a SWAT team to shut down people working out in a gymnasium, all of a sudden are not looking to create any conflict with people who are literally lighting fires and throwing bricks and Molotov cocktails on the streets of American cities. It's very strange.
You know, it's interesting, man. Up here in Albany, we watched pretty closely Saturday night, some live streaming, you know, what was going on in the area. And the sheriff here, Craig Apple, the mayor's come out and said they weren't from Albany. I can tell you, man, looking at the demographics, they were from Albany. These were people from Albany who were violent and looting, breaking into Colony Center Mall, destroying businesses up and down Central Avenue, South Pearl Street. So I don't necessarily buy that these are from outside, you know, but I do think they're not the majority. And I stand by that.
Oh, I would agree with you. I don't think they're the majority, but I think they are creating a majority of problems. And I've heard a lot of theories about people who've been released from prison in the course of cleaning out the jails in the COVID thing. I don't know if there's any truth to that. There's a lot of conspiracy theories about pallets of bricks being left around, and the left wing thinks the right wing is responsible for this and whatever. There's a lot of crazy stuff. But there are some people, I'll tell you the governor of California, who I think is one of the weakest, most pandering empty suits in existence, spoke today, and I'll let you just digest what he had to say.
The black community is not responsible for what's happening in this country right now. We are. We are.
Who's we?
Our institutions are responsible. We are accountable to this moment. Things move away in headlines and we indulge on the margins, but we don't systemically, foundationally address the root of these issues. We prune. We don't tear out the institutional racism from all of our institutions, large and small. We don't. We know that. And the community knows that. You're seeing that manifested out in the streets.
So one of these issues here for people like Gavin Newsom, if what he's saying is you're seeing this manifested in the street, you can't have it both ways. They cannot be paid agitators from the right wing or the left wing, as well as freedom fighters with a genuine cause, right? So how do people like Newsom resolve that, having it both ways? Because they're saying, hey, look, these people are, A, co-opting this cause, coming from out of town, paid agitators, whatever the excuse is, but that agitation and that violence is subsequently being excused and blamed on our institutions. So there's a lot of having it both ways.
Right. And you know, I think I kind of fall in the middle here where I do think African Americans have some cards stacked against them. I do think that we need to look at the economic issues in some of the inner cities and what we can do to improve the education system. I think we need to look at family care. I think we need to look at, you know, the ratio of fatherless homes. I think that matters. I think that's big. I think this is a deeper issue than cops pull over African Americans when they pull over whites. But conversely, I also think there's a level of white guilt out there where, like, you know, I feel so bad that I'm white and I have all this privilege, man, you know, and that's frustrating too. And I think that's part of the problem we're seeing with these people who are getting arrested. This kid from Del Mar who was arrested in Albany for throwing a brick at a cop, a 21-year-old white kid. This kid in Nashville arrested. I think there's this belief that, like, oh man, I'm white. I gotta fix this. I gotta take care of this because I'm white. And that's, you know, there's an element of I need to do better and be better. But there's also an element of, you know, I don't need to throw bricks at cops to achieve that.
Well, look, I think you got to back up and understand that some of the rage that's being directed at police is as bigoted as anything else. The police are people. 800,000 people in this country serve as uniformed peace officers. And we talk about somewhere between a dozen and 2 dozen of 800,000 people who, by the way, generally would trade their life for yours. You know, they answer, to me, a pretty high calling. So I don't excuse my support for law enforcement, and I don't apologize for it. I believe in law enforcement. I believe in the rule of law. I believe that we live in a civil society. And when people like Derek Chauvin commit the type of heinous crimes that they commit, the first thing they lose is their badge. And the second thing they lose is their freedom. And that's right. As you know, the guy that I love following on Twitter, Angel Masonette, who's a former NYPD detective, you can find him at Big Rican Man. He's a great follow on Twitter. Always says nobody hates a bad cop more than a good cop. And I think that's 100% true. And when you look back at the history of some of these incidents, there were two. When I watched that George Floyd video and I got over the sort of emotional and visceral reaction of it, I realized it was the same reaction that I had back in 2015. There were two incidents that it brought to mind. That one is the death of Walter Scott, who was shot in the back by a police officer named Micah Slager, and he's in jail until 2033. And it reminded me of an incident in Cincinnati where a college police officer named Ray Tensing shot a guy named Samuel Dubois in the head. Now, Tensing was indicted for murder. I don't believe he was actually convicted. I think he may have actually been paid out in some way for his termination from his job. But there's a narrative that seems to play out here where people suggest that police officers get away with murder all the time. So there's a lot of cumulative numbers that get thrown out there about allegations of abuse or murder. But I'll tell you, those are a couple of pretty high-profile cases where I think police officials and civil officials responded very quickly to strip a couple of cops of their power, indict them, try them, and at least in the case of Slager, lock them up for about 25 years. So
there's two thoughts off that. One, there's bad people in every profession, right? There's bad people who are doctors, bad people who are lawyers, there's bad people in the world. Innately, a certain percentage of people are bad, right? And there's bad cops, which we don't want there to be. There are. So I think that's part of something we have to understand. And the flip side, I think part of the solution here is if you are a bad cop, your punishment needs to be more severe than someone who's just a bad doctor or bad lawyer. I think there needs to be, if you take that oath and you oath to protect the people of your community, then the punishment should be severe when you break that. And I think that's some of the answer here. You know, if murder is 20, you're looking at a 25-year penalty for murder, you know, a cop should be looking at 37 and a half or whatever, you know, whatever that number is. I think part of the solution is taking that police officer and holding them accountable for not only the crime, but also breaking their oath.
Will you get a judge to convict and send them to prison? Can we actually get people sentenced in this country? I'm not sure.
That'd be great.
516-387-1866 is the telephone number here on the program. You can find us at Daily Shot Talks. Now, I want to spin around to the other side of the story because, you know, you go back to May 25th and May 26th when this story came to the surface. I thought that we had reached an interesting apex, similar to the Walter Scott story, where almost the entire country, save for some incredibly stupid or incredibly racist, marginalized morons, all agreed that what happened was a tremendous injustice, and there was sort of this unified outrage and a unified front. But then all hell broke loose in Minneapolis, and virtually in every city around the country, all hell has broken loose for the last several nights. And, you know, you can point to you could find the videos online, the shop owner in Dallas who was nearly beaten to death with a skateboard, or the old lady getting beaten with a 2x4 in upstate New York trying to defend a family-owned business, a restaurant manager in South Carolina who got punched out for calling the cops. So all of a sudden you pivot to this situation where we all look at this. I think reasonable people look at this and say, all right, I'm not on the side of that. As a matter of fact, if that comes to my neighborhood, we're going to have a problem, right?
Yeah.
This is setting up in a bad way.
100%. The protests in Albany were less than 5 miles from my house. I mean, it was a valid concern that might come up this way. And again, not the protests, the riots, two different things. But when you're forced to pick a side, those are two pretty terrible sides to be on. You know, if you're forced to either defend a cop killer or you're forced to defend looters and rioters, I mean, there is a vast middle there that I think majority of people fall in.
Well, there seems to be a perception that you have to make this choice, that either what happened was okay or you can't condemn what's happening on the streets right now. I would suggest to you that two things can be true at the same time. What happened to George Floyd was a murder, and it's an outrage. What's happening on the streets of America is criminal, and it's also an outrage. And neither one of those things cancels out the other. If you can walk and chew gum at the same time, intellectually you can get there.
Right, 100%. And I don't know how much time we have left on this topic, but I do want to get in one last thing, and that's, the celebrity in Hollywood coming out in droves to protect these rioters and defend these rioters. Your Steve Carell's of the world, a couple people from Barstool Sports, which is crazy, are coming out starting funds for bail for these rioters. And, they've obviously chosen a side, and it's not the middle one. It's not the middle road.
Well, I thought it was interesting today, by the way, that this is a little bit of a long clip, but I think it's worth listening to. My very favorite state, where I would rather be, Florida, the sheriff of Polk County addressed some social media rumors and some things that you hear about the idea that these protesters and agitators want to take the riot to the suburbs and all this kind of stuff. Well, the Polk County Sheriff had something to say about that today.
We have received information in social media that some of the criminals were going to take their criminal conduct into the neighborhoods. I would tell them, if you value your life, you probably shouldn't do that in Polk County, because the people of Polk County like guns. They have guns. I encourage them to own guns, and they're going to be in their homes tonight with their guns loaded. And if you try to break into their homes to steal, to set fires, I'm highly recommending they blow you back out of the house with their guns. So leave the community alone. And we'll do our best to support the community. But ladies and gentlemen, make no mistake about it. All of that ugliness has taken away from what we're united about. We're united about the conduct that you saw with George, where his life was taken with a knee to the neck. It's horrific, and there's not enough words to explain that. Let's keep the focus on that.
It's a little bit to unpack there, but effectively what he's saying is, if you want to take this from the freeway, from the I-4 in Orlando, and come try to burn down somebody's house in Polk County, you're going to have a bad day. And I will tell you this, particularly those kids, as we talked about, a lot of white kids from the suburbs. We saw the kid in Pittsburgh get walked into the police station today with mommy and daddy. I assume he got pulled out of the basement to be surrendered to Pittsburgh police. Little punks like that are going to have a bad day, because I promise you this, most of us who find this George Floyd murder grossly objectionable and look forward to Derek Chauvin's time in general population, enjoying the cuisine there at the Minnesota State Correctional Facility, we will have no problem killing you to defend our families. I guarantee you that. Nobody wants it to go there. But you come in to these places that are generally peaceful, and it is not a racial thing, because it is a middle-aged family person thing. Don't screw with mom and dad. It will end badly.
Especially in Florida.
And listen, the sheriff, he's either going to get reelected in a landslide or he's out. But I give him a lot of credit.
I'd vote for him.
Let's be realistic about this. And there's I could keep saying, there's a lot of layers on the onion. We keep peeling back all these political issues. But one of the things that you hear people saying, and I've heard from a couple of people who are not necessarily right-wing nut jobs in my life, but you have all these politicians that say, you don't need private ownership of firearms. Don't take matters into your own hands. Wait for the police to get there, who are now holding the police back while these freaking cities burn. Believe me, you're your last line of defense. Don't give up that right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's going to happen, right? We're going to see this at some point. There was some fires set in Beverly Hills this weekend. At some point in this country, they're going to start getting into neighborhoods and communities, and there will be it will go bad. I think this will get worse before it gets better, and the worst is very, very ugly.
Well, listen, you got to accept a reality. If you live in a state like New York, where Cuomo is the governor, or Massachusetts, where Charlie Baker is the governor, or California, where Gavin Newsom's the governor, if people like Charlie Baker and Cuomo have to choose between you and the protesters, they're picking the protesters. I hate to tell you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
That's a reality. You can't count on them defending you. You're just a stupid taxpayer. They don't mind sending a SWAT team with a tank to stop you from getting a haircut, but they're going to order the police to fall back when your business is getting burned to the ground.
Well, that opens an interesting topic from there, and that is this is going to go one of two ways, right? We're either going to see coronavirus blow up, right, with the amount of protesting and lack of social distancing happening, or it's not going to spread. And I don't know which I prefer, because at this point, if this doesn't spread like wildfire, if all these protesters are fine and healthy in 2 weeks, and I've been kept out of my job for 3 months, and I've been told I have to socially distance, what are we doing?
Well, I can tell you what I prefer and what I think is going to happen here, which is a lot of nothing. Then we can at least go forward now. One of the things that I think, and not to get on a whole corona thing, but one of the things that's kept this going for so long are the continued dire predictions. Everybody said, oh, Georgia opens up, booga, 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 everything's going to go to hell. Well, it's been almost 4 weeks, and Georgia's fine. It's been almost 3 weeks, and Florida's fine. So I think at least if this doesn't blow up, if hospitals don't get at least a risky wave, then I think we can at least go forward into the summer and look to the fall thinking that we are somewhat out of the woods on the corona thing. Because there is no social distancing.
That would require that Cuomo and Baker and Lamont and all these very nice governors admit they were wrong, right? If this didn't happen, how can Charlie Baker sit in Massachusetts and say restaurants can only have outside dining when there's 5,000 people storming the White House, so storming the Capitol building? It's crazy. You can't do that. So if this doesn't lead to a widespread outbreak, then you have to immediately lift restrictions. But then if you do that, you admit you're wrong. And I don't think Baker or Cuomo or Newsom have the intestinal fortitude to do that.
Boy, y'all want power. God, I hope you never get it.
The thing that they can do...
Have you snuck that in every show, by the way?
Definitely. I play, you know what? When I can't sleep at night, I play it on a loop over and
Boy,
over.
Boy, y'all want power. God, I hope you never get it.
But it's true. Now, the thing that works in our favor, though, and by our favor, I mean reasonable people who want to get the economy going, who would like to have teachers in schools and maybe a couple of firefighters left to drive the trucks by the fall, is that weasels...
There's no trucks. They're all gone. The trucks are ruined.
Weasels like Cuomo and Baker, the dark angel of the nursing homes, Cuomo, the thing that they have in their favor is that they can always pull something out of their ass to explain. There'll be some medical thing, preponderance theory about, well, this virus, you know, the trajectory of it, and something. They will paint themselves as heroes. At least they'll sort of let us out of this intellectual jail, I think.
Well, Cuomo today already said the advantage to this is the protesters are all young, the protests were outdoors, the weather was warm. He already started just backpedaling and somehow staying in position.
By the way, can I tell you something? You'd be proud of me. And Cameron, who I expect will join us at some point here, would also be proud. So I put gas in my truck today. $1.65 a gallon, by the way. I should have got the V8. I'm at the gas station. I pumped the gas, and I said, kind of a long day. I'm going to get a water. So without thinking about it, I walk into the gas station, and the girl says, welcome, blah, blah, blah. And I said, how you doing? And she said, oh, you can't be in here without a mask on. And I was going to say that I have a condition that prevents me from wearing it because I'm literally going to walk like 15 feet and get a bottle of water and stand behind this plexiglass and pay for it. This whole transaction will take seconds. But I went
being
with
a
my
dick
better
is not
nature.
a condition.
I went with my better... How am I a dick? I didn't even get the water. I left.
Yeah.
But I was a good person. I did the right thing.
The right thing would put the mask on before you go in.
Listen, I don't wear a mask all day. I was outside pumping gas.
You have one in your truck?
Huh?
You don't have a mask in your truck?
I do. I have one that I wrote "End the Shutdown" on.
Yeah,
but my point is, I already had walked in there. And now I had to go back out and get the damn mask and go back in and get the water. I'm already in there. It's crazy.
I mean, I don't know where I fall with all this coronavirus stuff, but the next 2 weeks will tell me exactly how I feel about it. But just
That's always good. Yeah,
mask,
it's good to pick your position after it's over.
Yeah, I thought you'd like that. But wear the mask. Wear the mask.
Listen, I did the right thing. I was going to use the medical excuse, but I didn't do it. Wasn't that
You were
good?
going to be a dick, and you didn't do it. Congratulations.
Yes.
You were going to be a dick, and you weren't. Congratulations.
No, I just wanted water. What is that, a crime?
No. Just put a freaking mask on. Have some respect for the young girl.
I
was probably
did.
like, oh, man, I got to tell this guy he can't be in here without a mask on. Oh, he's going to yell.
I didn't yell.
Customer service always goes to worst case scenario before it happens. And
I was
thankfully
very nice.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Oh, I feel like I thought everybody was gonna say they were so proud of me. I did good.
Maybe Cam will have a different opinion here.
If he ever joins us, I don't know. 516-387-1866.
I believe he's jumping in here shortly.
I thought I did the right thing. I was really proud of myself. I thought I did good. You know, I felt like that girl I thought she was a little rough with me. She seemed like she was pretty much enjoying the throwing me out of the store bit, but I was nice. I didn't claim medical problems or anything. I was good.
Yeah,
I did good.
God. So you want a medal for being honest and going and getting a mask?
I didn't get the mask. I just didn't get the water.
There was probably a sign on the door that said, "Please wear a mask."
Well, I know, but by the time I was at the door and I didn't have the damn thing.
So you got to the door, mask, went in anyway, and made this poor young lady tell you to go get a mask.
I thought they would let it slide.
Yeah. Perfect. Thank you. Judge, somebody get me a gavel.
But then I was nice. I did good.
Oh, you were nice. Congratulations.
I was very nice.
Typical white man breaks the rules and thinks that just because he's nice, he can get away with it. That's the privilege you've enjoyed.
I don't know. That's a little bit much. That's a little bit much.
Is Cameron joining us here? Is he?
Cam, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh yeah, there he is.
So listen, did you hear that
I've
whole
enjoyed
thing?
this. What?
I did good.
Well, you didn't go back in and buy the water, so you cost the lady a sale. That was nice.
Wait,
of
you didn't go back in and buy the water?
No, I said that. I didn't go back in. I'm not going all the way back in there. I had already walked all the way to my truck, and then I got to go back.
You gave this girl a hard time, and then you didn't even spend the
you're distorting this.
You are a prick.
By the way, are you drinking water right now? Are you drinking water right now? Is that what this is? What are you drinking? Is that water right there?
This?
Yeah. Is that water?
No. I hate water, really. But I had a moment where I was going to do something good. And then this girl, she kicked me out.
This girl who was doing her job, by the way.
Well, I mean, if you want to be part of the machine and, be rough on people and all that, it's fine. I thought I did. I thought you guys were going to say that I did good. I was nice to her, A, and B, I didn't do any lying about the medical stuff.
Congratulations.
Cam, help me out here.
No, Barry, that is like the bare minimum of decency you could have done. Just the absolute bare minimum.
All I had to do was say that I have a medical condition and I can't wear the thing.
But why is that an alternative? Why is
because
saying
I didn't have
right,
it with
ma'am,
me.
You're absolutely right. I totally forgot. Let me go grab it. I'll be right back. I'll buy your water and maybe I'll get a Slim Jim.
Very easy.
Well, I kind of wish I got a Slim Jim, actually. It's not a bad idea. Welcome to the show, Cameron, from the North Shore studio.
Yes, a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, thanks for making some time for us.
You know, I apologize. Some of us have prior obligations. I don't know.
Well, that's fine.
about
Obviously, you
guys.
have things in your life that you love more than us.
Well, I did have to make stir fry for the whole family, so.
Your kids eat stir fry?
Yeah, he loves it, actually.
Wow.
One of them does. Yeah. I don't make it too spicy.
So but you made it.
I made it. Boiled the rice. Sauteed
This
the
isn't like out of a
vegetables.
bag or anything like that.
No, I cut the chicken. I did the whole nine. I seasoned it with my own, soy sauce and garlic.
You should
pepper,
host
onions.
a cooking show on like a
Funny.
sports channel.
Yeah, that's funny you say that.
That's an idea.
I don't know if anybody's ever done it before.
It's an interesting idea.
Anyway, I heard strip clubs were going to be talked about today, so I decided I'd join.
Is that a thing?
Is that
really?
still going to happen?
Well, we're going to get there. I was just going to take a peek at the television here while we're doing radio and see.
While you do that, Cam, is that a mule? Are you drinking a mule?
Some comments by.
I thought there was no drinking on the show, so it's just water, and it keeps it cool in the copper. That's what I thought we were doing. Right?
Oh, fancy.
Right? Okay. Well, I guess we're not adhering to the YouTube policies.
Is that a YouTube thing?
I just have a watered
I would
down
imagine.
Coca-Cola. That's all that is.
Yeah, Coca-Cola, of course.
Yeah.
This is apple juice, ice cold apple juice.
Ice cold. Like the water.
With a little bit of a burn. Go ahead, slow.
Well, listen, so Cameron, we were just talking about the end of the social distancing era that's been ushered in here recently. We're done with that, apparently.
Apparently. You can go shopping now.
Well, it depends where you are. I had to be, by the way, you talk about who had a rough day today. So then, after my water debacle, I had to go to Best
We're
Buy.
talking about you, by the way? You had a rough day?
Yes. I've been abused by the man all day. So after I was denied
I don't know if you can say
water,
that this day and age.
after I was denied drinking water, I had to go to Best Buy. I had to pick up a piece of equipment that they had at Best Buy.
No wider phrase has ever been said. I had to go to Best Buy after being denied my water.
After being denied drinking water. So
you're making me feel guilt over here.
Yeah, white guilt.
Jesus.
So you can go, if you want to go to Home Depot, you can go to Home Depot. If you want to go to
you gotta wait in
Walmart,
line. You have to wait in line to go to Home Depot.
Trust me, the line would have been quicker than what I endured at Best Buy. I don't like the curbside thing. We do curbside pickup because you're relying on somebody else. Like a transaction that should take 2 minutes to go into the store, pick something up off the shelf, take it to
I feel like
register,
I'm buying stolen goods when I do it.
Yeah. So I pull in. They ask now, and mind you, my order, according to the email, was ready like 2.5 hours before I got there. I show up. They look at me like I got 6 heads. They don't know my name. They don't know the order. I'm very nice. I was really exceedingly nice because I'm sure these people don't want to be going in there and picking people's crap up either. So,
are they coming to your car? How is this happening?
Yeah, so they have numbered spaces. So you pull up in front of the Best Buy, and they come to you and they say, "What are you doing?" Now, frankly, the person that I had really had a lot of texting to do, which is fine. It's a pandemic. But so I go over there and I said, "Can I go into the store and just pick this up?" And she said, "Oh no, you can't." Now other people went in, by the way. Interestingly, I don't know how you get on the team go in the store and why I had to stay outside. Maybe they heard about the mask thing. I don't know. But I had
brick first.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I'm waiting like 20 minutes to a half an hour. And I go back and I said to the girl, "How's it looking?" And she said, "Oh yeah, I forgot to follow up on that."
Oh,
I think
well, you always love to hear
that the guy who picks the orders found it, but he hasn't brought it yet. So it's probably still on his cart somewhere.
Sure.
So I said, okay. 20 minutes, half an hour later, after that, subsequent to that, it came out. I don't know how people could shop that way. It is a nightmare. I was at the mall for an hour for something that should have taken 2 minutes.
Was it sort of like when you have to, when In-N-Out's really busy and they like come to your car with the little like ticket thing and they'll take your order on the little pad? Did they have a little pad? Could they
Well, they
lift
have the
things up?
thing. This is another piece of this I don't understand.
Very
Not to
specific.
get
They had a
not to
thing.
get super granular on this, but they
Well,
have a
please.
little scanner. But
All three of our listeners are asleep, so take your time.
But your order printout doesn't have a barcode on it. So they have to punch like a 32-digit code into the scanner, which
It
seems
wasn't on the
ridiculous.
receipt?
The
On the
code's
phone?
on there,
Like,
but not a barcode. So they type in the number. They type it.
seems counterintuitive.
I don't know.
Did you get it?
Yes, I got it.
All is right in the world.
Well, I was still denied water.
Hey, Bear, I want to thank you for not being a prick to the Best Buy person. I think it's really noble of you.
Now wait, let me tell you a funny thing. When I go out with Cameron, no matter how nice Cameron tries to be, people think he's a prick. Like no matter how, it's actually funny.
Because he's so good looking.
Yeah, that must be it. Or it's something in my eyes that just translates to not a nice person. Which is not true.
They perceive the nicer you are, they perceive inverse prickishness. It's really weird.
So you were being mean, but they thought you were being nice?
No, I was being nice, but I just felt mean inside.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of water you got there.
Wow.
You gotta stay hydrated, my friends. 516-387-1866 is a telephone number. You know, interestingly, I saw a couple of people fire tweets at the mayor of Boston today. They were kind of curious. Yeah.
Before you get to that, Cam, is that where all the magic happens behind you?
No. This is a guest room. If we're feeling
those
a little,
look like somebody got a little funky in there, no?
What are you talking about?
Hold on, I gotta turn it. You can't see it on YouTube. Hold on, I'm gonna drop the curtain for a second.
What are you doing?
If I can. Oh, I don't know if I can.
First of all, looks like somebody dropped the curtain in Cam's guest room.
This is the home office.
Can you see it now?
Oh, yeah.
You know,
you have a black couch on the other wall.
I have a secretary, and you know.
And there is no male talent today, so you're going to work with me, and I can get you $5,000 a day.
I don't make the movies. I just
Right. Recommendations all we're looking for here.
Listen, I tried to gain as much weight as possible to block this bed, and it's not working, is it? On my corporate calls, when I put, in corporate world, you can have like a fake background, and so usually it's like a Soho loft behind me.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, but
burning or not burning?
That looks a little barren, if you know what I mean.
If it's burning, he's doing something wrong.
Well, thanks for that distraction, Dan. I appreciate that. Yeah, no. If we're feeling like we want to role play, we'll come into the spare bedroom.
Do you both?
Secretary?
I'm sorry, secretary.
I heard something about secretary earlier. I don't know.
Well, you said you were pulling back the curtain. What happened? You got up and left, and you didn't have any pants on.
Well, I was going to say, two things happened. So on the YouTube channel, I turned off the graphics so that people could see the bottom of the screen because they cover it. But Dan can see, but other people could not see. So it was unfair. Then I got up.
So we're looking at brown sheets that are pulled back a little bit. Maybe a light tan. Something
Actually,
like
I have my monitor blocking. Hold on.
Hey, just tilt that thing up, will you? But then
I
got up.
POV?
I mean,
what's on the bed?
It's a spare bedroom. If I'm in the doghouse, this is where I sleep, and it doesn't have any.
How many
sheets
pillows
on
you got back there?
Three.
That's good. It's a good number.
But again, if I'm in the doghouse, this is where I go.
So, like a lot of people, I am not wearing pants because we're in this Zoom age, right? So I put on a button down, but then at the beginning of the show, I have a new printer. And the printer was giving me problems. So
let's tell them about your last printer.
It broke. So I got a new printer, but it didn't print. But then it did print. And then we had microphone problems, and then Dan couldn't get on the Skype.
Yeah.
It's been really a tough day. But I wanted
know.
these
it sounds
papers.
like your connection's a little better, by the way.
Well, it is better.
Oh, did you fix something?
Yeah, well, kind of. It's
Did you,
some things
did
are a
you
little
punch
low
the router?
rent.
Did you punch
It's not
the
the
router?
router. No.
You punched it.
No. I did
what did you
not.
punch?
I'm
You punched
nonviolent.
something.
All right. So anyway,
Go ahead.
I had to get up and get these papers because we
Oh.
need them. But I'm not wearing pants. So
That's fine.
now you saw my knees.
It's first time.
So what's the papers? We're all waiting in suspense.
Oh,
Yeah.
the papers. Funny you should ask. No, because we're done, right? We're done with the heavy topic. We're moving on now.
I hope so. That's
Okay.
why I came.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah. What else is there to say, right?
What-
If you know
world's
what
burning.
else there is to say, 516-387-1866 is the number where you can say it.
I wonder what's
Since social
happening here,
distancing is over,
866.
and like I said, some people were kind of popping off at Marty Walsh, the mayor of Boston, on Twitter today because they were curious how you could have these hordes in the city, but we can't have a marathon in September. Right? Fair question.
Right.
I think. Now, in Florida, not only will they be having marathons, they're reopening the theme parks.
Yes.
So, how are they doing it? What's it going to look like when you go there? And are you willing to go? I think that's the question, because we all agree that the social distancing thing is effectively done, right? We're done with that now.
I would say a majority of the world is not abiding by it for sure.
So
Yeah, I agree with Kim. It's not done, but I don't think it's paying attention to it.
So we just got to. It's not happening.
My wife is following it, but she's probably the only one.
It's because your wife's a nice woman.
Just trying to stay away from
That's
you.
right. A nice person. Well, there's that. I think I'm in here.
Yeah, stay in there. So we're done with social distancing, more or less. If you want to flip a car or something, you got to get help. You can't just do it by yourself. You got to get other people. So you could
At least
go.
most of them are wearing masks.
What's that?
Most are
Most
wearing
of them
masks.
are wearing masks.
I think it depends on where you're looking. Walt Disney World. Let me take you inside Walt Disney World.
The happiest place on earth.
The happiest place on earth. Disney Springs reopened last Wednesday. They're limiting guest capacity. Visitors have to get a temperature check, cover the face, and part of the dining complex is reopening, but it's phased. There's not. You can't go
Like if I want to have
everywhere.
sex. Uh-huh.
If you want to have what?
What's that?
Go. It sounds like if I kind of want to have sex, that's what I got to go through.
You got to cover your
It's
face.
phased or reopening?
The temperature check, the mask,
Oh.
the limited dining options.
Damn
I'm
those!
sorry.
Damn those limited dining options. I tell you.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Over at Universal, the theme park company hasn't revealed a lot of details. What we do know is temperature checks, and there's a lot of social distancing signage at City Walk. Also, Universal City Walk reopened last week. Restaurants got limited menus. I don't really understand the limited menu thing, Dan. Why do they have limited
Like
menus?
takeout. It's takeout only kind of thing.
No, you can eat there.
That's how I look at it.
So I think people are trying to minimize cost here. Trying to streamline the menu, less staff on, or food cost items. Also looking to increase speed of service because you have
There you
limited capacity, limited seating. You want to try and get the guests in and out faster to be able to accommodate more guests.
So if you only have
That's
5
legit.
things
By
on
the
the
way,
menu,
I think
there you
as these restaurants reopen, people have to be mindful of not taking up the tables. You gotta eat and move your ass.
Absolutely.
You eat and you go. No sitting around. They did say, by the way,
there he goes.
he's done. He ate. He had his limited dining option, and he's gone.
Is he at a
That's how it
restaurant right
works.
now? looks like
No,
he's
he's-
at a Hungry Man or at
He's
a
on
Claim
the
Jumper or something.
no, he's on the patio at the Capital Region studio.
You remember Claim Jumper, my friend?
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Do they still have those?
Yeah, but not out here. Yeah.
No, but
Right
I
on
mean,
the
but
West
in,
Coast.
the first one I
believe
went
so.
to was in Denver.
Denver.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, they had them in Denver.
Um,
And how about you know
I'll
what
look it up.
remember Stuart Anderson's
Stuart Anderson's.
Black
the
Angus, the
headquarters are in
steakhouse?
Houston, Texas. Yeah, Claim Jumper's still around, my friend.
Oh.
Still going. Restaurant and saloon.
They should
Choose
put
your
one in
location.
Vegas. Maybe we should
Deer
franchise.
Valley. Oh yeah, Mission Vallejo. Oh, that's a fun place.
You don't know the
Can't
Black
say.
Angus though? You never went to Stuart Anderson's?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah,
I went to Black
delicious.
Angus for sure.
The first one, that's actually the first time I went to California in my life. I had a Stuart Anderson's in Pomona. Yeah.
Oh, Pomona. I used to live in Pomona. How fun.
Not Ramona, Pomona.
Pomona. You'll spend half the time in the car. It's close to San Dimas, which is home of Bill and Ted. Excellent adventure.
Oh, that Bill and Ted.
Yeah. Go ahead. What's so Disney? When get to the chase? When's the park opening? 'Cause that's what everybody wants to know.
Well, the Universal Studios expected to present their reopening plan to the Orange County Economic Recovery Task Force next Thursday.
Orange County, Florida. It's very
Florida.
confusing that there's parks in both Orange County, California, and Orange County, Florida. You think they did that on purpose?
That's where you want to be. Now, my favorite park,
That's true.
by the way, is the Sea. See, I'm actually wearing the hat from SeaWorld.
You're one of those people
What people?
that go to SeaWorld.
I love SeaWorld.
And buy the merch.
I did buy the. Well, to be fair, I got to tell you, I went to SeaWorld, and when I got to the park, it was it was hot,
Go ahead.
and it was really sunny, and I realized I had no hat, and I don't have. There's not much up here, so if I was in the Florida sun all day at the SeaWorld waiting for the Shamu show, they would have hospitalized me. So I had to get a hat.
You did see? Did you see Free Willy? Like, I can't believe you saw. When's Disneyland opening?
We don't know. It's
I
not
thought it was
decided yet.
July.
Wait, all that lead for this?
I thought it was opening July.
The date I think that's been floated around is July 12th. I don't know that that's official. Google it. You're on the computer there.
I'm doing it right now.
I don't want to get
I
up
thought
again.
it
I have no
was
pants on.
7-Eleven, baby. 7-Eleven.
Oh, the 11th.
Yeah.
Okay. So SeaWorld.
Okay. Can I read first of all, can I read from the Walt Disney World website really quick?
Please.
Walt Disney World theme parks will open beginning July 11th for the Magic Kingdom Park and Disney's Animal Kingdom, followed by Epcot and Disney's Hollywood Studios on July 15th. So there you go.
I got up with no pants on for those papers.
Yeah.
And you had the answer the whole time.
Well, I didn't know what you were doing. I'm sorry. We've taken enhanced health and safety measures, followed with posted instructions while visiting Walt Disney World. Inherent risk of COVID-19 exists in any public place, so if you get it while you're on our property, it's not our fault.
Let me ask
Sign
you
me
a
up.
question.
I'm going.
Political question here. Policy question. Shouldn't we just make businesses immune from getting sued over the COVID? If I go to the bar down the street,
you make the decision to go.
It seems like an easy one.
I disagree slightly.
Well, Dan, to your point, I think I know where you're going. They have to provide a monicum of some sort of sanitary response to this.
Right. I think you
like a sink and
have to
water
make
and
sure you're doing the
soap?
right things. You're keeping sick employees out of work. You're providing sanitizer. You're doing the right things. I think a blanket you can't sue is a little risky. But I do think businesses that are doing the right things, shouldn't be penalized for that.
Yeah, but the problem is that there's not an in-between. Because if you get sued and you were doing the right thing, you still got to hire a lawyer and go to court.
You have to come up with regulations, right? You have to say this is the baseline for all businesses to reopen is that they have to adhere to these standards. Stations for sanitation at every 10 feet.
We call those sinks.
Capacity cut 6 feet. Capacity cut in half. You follow the guidelines and you open. If you follow those guidelines, then maybe you can't be sued.
Yeah, you can't be sued. Maybe you add them to inspections that are done annually, whether retail or restaurant, whatever that might be.
Sure. Look at us solving the world's problems right here.
So restaurants that don't have running water, they'll have to put it in.
Well, they shouldn't be open if they don't have running water. It's against the rules on top of that, right?
Well, and people say like sanitization station, like this is some kind of military acronym. Just wash your friggin' hands.
Well, let's say they have sanitizing. You squirt a little sanitizer in your hand every 6 feet, right?
Every 6 feet?
That's what Barry said.
It could be
a
lot.
Just have stations around, and then you can go do it yourself.
And then you can't get sued.
Yeah,
right.
I'll buy that.
I'll buy that for $1.
All right.
Well, who's going to Disneyland?
Problems here.
I'll
go. I don't have any problem. I mean, look, here's the thing. I would rather go to SeaWorld.
Lines will be short.
No fast pass to get rid of that thing.
Right.
I would not go to Disneyland if Corona was not a thing, so that's a decision for me.
So you'd go to SeaWorld is what you're saying.
No, I would do neither. Neither of those things sound enjoyable to me.
You've never been to a roller coaster in your life? What's the
I've
deal?
been to a lot of roller coasters. None of them ended well. Motion sickness, not a.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's not enjoyable for me.
Is this running the family?
I can tell you that Barry has gotten sick on some roller coasters. I don't think as many as me, but he has not done well at a few of them.
All right. Well.
True. This is true.
Well, everybody can come to my house, and we'll do VR, and we'll pretend we'll be on roller coasters.
I think I would throw up
more.
We'll go
deep sea fish with the headsets on, and that would be fun.
I went to Six Flags with my kid like 2 years ago, so she was like 2, and I went on a little boat that goes back and forth. Right, it's like a little swinging boat, right? So I thought, well, how dad can do that. But then after it's going, it starts to turn. It articulates and swings. So you're turning and swinging and turning. And
Dan,
I will tell you what, I almost vomited.
You vomited right in front of your kid?
No, I didn't. I held it in.
Oh,
but
the shame you would have felt.
Oh, I mean,
if you hold it in, it doesn't count.
Nobody told me that was going to happen. So now I can go to SeaWorld, where they do incredible work to rescue marine animals all over the world, and I can support them.
Oh. Jeez.
They're great. I don't understand.
Wow.
I think things have changed, right? They've done a good job of trying to make it better. I mean, it's not quite as bad as a circus, but they're certainly trying.
Not as bad as a circus. They barely even do shows anymore.
Correct. So what do you do at SeaWorld?
Well, they have, first of all, it's one of the best aquariums you can go to. I mean, they have an incredible...
So it's basically a giant aquarium.
Well, they have a lot of roller coasters. Nothing there for me in that department. They have that big, tall tower that you can go up and down on, where you get
what
the
does
whole
that have
view
to do with marine life? Exactly.
No, well, but
what does
you
that
see,
have to do with marine life?
Because you have a view of the water. You can see things.
The seaman?
Yeah.
By the way, okay.
And listen, I mean, listen, here's the thing. In all seriousness, everybody loves to crap on SeaWorld. But I would make the argument that, especially for kids, if you can't get up close and personal and see these animals and understand the incredible majesty of what they are and what responsibility we have to protect them and to protect nature, I think there's tremendous educational value.
Absolutely.
And they have a show, by the way. The best show. Hold on.
Anybody who very shit for being anti-mask, pro SeaWorld, kill the dolphins. The number's 516-387-1866. Daily Shot talks to tell Barry why he is not a great person for not wearing a mask in a store, and to remind Barry that a whale is kept in a tank that is like a tenth the size of the parking lot. Now continue. Again, 516-387-1866. Barry, continue with your thought.
The best show in the park at SeaWorld is a show called Pets Ahoy. where they actually take animals from the local rescue shelter, dogs, cats, pigs, birds, chickens, and they
Throw them
train
in the
them
water?
to do this No, it's on stage. It's not in the water. You can't throw the
Like
pigs in the
Vic
water. The bacon will get soggy.
Oh,
It's a great show. They do all kinds of educational stuff, and the SeaWorld Foundation does a tremendous amount of marine rescue all over the world.
absolutely. After the backlash they received, they do tremendous
From
work.
a cheap fake news hit piece. Fake news. Third row.
I bet going to SeaWorld is still cheaper than going to the Boston Aquarium.
Mm.
I'm sure it's still cheaper.
You know what? Here's what I'll say, and this is where you get the
It's
deal.
such an expensive ripoff there.
If you live in the Florida, you get the
If you live in
in-state.
the Florida.
Yes, you get the in-state season rate, and then it's super.
Oh.
Even Disney's not bad.
Oh, well, that's reason enough to move.
Yeah, that and the weather, and the Polk County Sheriff, who I now love.
Can I just mention that our phone number is 1866? Do you guys know what happened in the year 1866? Let me show you.
You're gonna show us?
No, I'll
You're
read
gonna
it
take
to
a
you.
split in Fort Theater?
1866. I thought this was very interesting and apropos. March 13th, the United States Congress overwhelmingly passed the Civil Rights Act in 1866.
Wow, look at that.
Could you imagine? U.S. President Andrew Johnson vetoes the bill on March 27th, so never mind. But then Congress overrides. No, hold on. Then Congress overrides the veto on April 9th. But 1866. So we're a fairly woke radio show, I would say.
Yeah, just going to SeaWorld and hanging out.
Not wearing masks. We're right there.
No, hold on. I wear the
go ahead.
mask.
I know
Okay.
you do.
I do.
And the shutdown.
Yeah, no,
And
and
the
we thank
shutdown.
you so much for doing that and not lying about your health conditions. I just think, that's amazing.
I'm sorry. I apologize that 40 million people have been put out of work, and now we're done with it without another word.
It's over. The pandemic's over.
Done. If those
normal.
protesters in Michigan had just lit a couple of cars on fire, we could have put this to bed in April.
Oh.
Could you imagine the outrage if that had happened?
Listen, in no uncertain terms, if a COVID protester had spit gum on the sidewalk, I think they would have been shot by a tank. I mean, in no uncertain terms, because you remember, I look at this was a couple weeks ago. The rhetoric was you are literally killing people just by assembling in a group. You are killing grandma. We're done with that now.
Yeah, it's totally fine. I was going to look up the latest statistics on it, but it's okay. We're good.
Are we going into drive-through strip clubs now? Is that our next topic?
Ooh.
Well, I was going to, so
Specialty of mine.
I know that we
We're
were
up to
looking for something to
105
talk about after dark. And I thought this was a topic that you would all enjoy. And by you all, I mean the two of you, because the three of us are the ones listening to this show. This is from Switzerland. As part of the reopening effort there in Switzerland, we're all dealing with it. We're all trying to figure out how to get the economy back on track. We're just working stiff.
Total amount of cases in Switzerland is 30,000. So I think they're doing fine.
A third of New York.
They don't have very many people.
They have 1,900 deaths.
But they don't have very many people.
Correct. I'm just giving you flat numbers.
Flat numbers.
Not spinning it.
No spin zone.
No spin zone right now.
Okay. So in Switzerland, people are suffering.
Let's see what the population is of Switzerland. Go ahead.
Yeah, look
8.5 million.
Okay, 8.5 million. And
So
only
that's
1,900 deaths. Hey.
So Switzerland's about the size of Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Massachusetts like 6.5, 7. Miserable people.
Yeah, go ahead. Correct.
Swiss
basically new
sex workers have drawn up a list of rules which they say minimizes the risk of transmitting coronavirus in brothels in hopes that the country's ban on the industry could soon be lifted. Okay, the adult industry in Switzerland is suffering from the lack of, well, the plan to reopen the industry safety, prepared by apparently a trade organization for Swiss brothels, says that sex positions, which allow for safe distance between faces, such as, and I'm reading from the copy, doggy style and reverse cowgirl, are advisable. These positions reduce the risk of transmission of the virus in water droplets, the Swiss media outlet Watson reported. Both allow for the woman to face away from her sexual partner, avoiding face-to-face contact. So apparently, even in Swiss brothels, your dining options are limited.
Even in brothels, they don't want to see your face. That's fun.
Are you required to wear a mask? That's a question I have.
Ooh.
Well, hold on, I'm looking. Let's see. So it sounds like, and I'm just gleaning from this story, other measures for protecting health include ventilating rooms for about 15 minutes after each customer.
Oh,
you want to
standard.
get the odor out. You don't want to have any lingering droplets.
Let all the stank out.
Probably smells like this room.
Now, they also are going to, check this out, they're going to wash the bed sheets and hand towels.
No.
Were they not doing that before?
I wasn't.
Well, you're not running a brothel.
I'm not running a brothel, correct. You're
okay.
right. Am I? No.
I don't think. And it also recommends that these sex workers wear a mouth and nose covering, further limiting
only the sex
dining options.
That limits some more options.
How long does do the droplets last on the skin? Do we have a number on that yet? I know it's like 3 days on cardboard.
No, that's all been recruited.
That's all been revised. That's all
revised, recruited. It's fine. Everything dies within an hour.
Yeah. So
now,
basically,
do these masks
everything.
have a hole in them?
Yeah.
Like the lady at the gas station with the. Yeah. You seen that video? Yeah. Maybe she was a sex worker.
Because to end the shutdown, it's got a big hole where the shutdown part is.
The O and down. Down. That's where are you going, pal? Down.
End it, please.
Gloves, condoms, and disinfectants would also be provided at brothels, and each session should be kept to 15 minutes. I don't expect that to be a problem.
No, please.
Wait, so were condoms not provided before?
I was just going to ask that. Were they not, you don't need condoms normally?
They don't wash the sheets, I guess. Now, one other piece of this that I found interesting. Customer data would be recorded for the purpose of tracking infections, contact tracing. So, you're gonna have to.
They should have been doing that already as well.
Yeah, I guess I'm not going anymore.
Yeah, it sounds like you gotta sign the log on your way out. So I don't know. And they're gonna, what's gonna happen is you sign in,
on a ledger.
right? They sign the thing. Barry was here, 7:15. Yeah, right. It's gonna be really embarrassing when you sign out at 7:17:30.
It's like when you used to check into hotels, you had to sign the guest book and the ledger.
Yeah. I imagine there's a lot of like Seymour Butts visiting.
Eric John.
Hey, another Mike Hunt used this room.
Must be related.
Oh boy.
So would we go to the brothel? Is that what you're asking?
I mean,
this is not the same as the park, as the Disney park. This is separate.
I'm throwing up for different reasons.
I will say that the brothel will be cleaner and safer than either park.
Oh, come on.
I would imagine. No? No?
Are we serious here?
Yeah.
What happened?
You think that a brothel where they just started washing the sheets is going to be safer? Listen, you'd be safer in the whale tank at SeaWorld.
I was just going to say, you'd be safer at, yeah. Well,
you'd be safer dining with Shamu if you were dinner.
Ironically, you can do that at the brothel as well.
Yeah, it's a Shamu. I see what you did there.
Your dining options are limited.
All right, let's
546,
say none of us were married. We're not married.
Yeah.
And we're single, and we're in the age range of 18 to 23. When would you go to a strip club in this era? When is the
Strip
time
club
that you
or
would
brothel?
strip club?
Yeah, let's back this down to a
brothels are
reasonable
illegal.
level.
They're illegal in this country, so in certain parts.
Well,
but
not in.
For the most part, I said certain. So for the most part, Bunny Ranch excluded. When would you deem it reasonable to go back to strip clubs?
I'm
when
18
would you
to
feel
23.
safe? If you were not married and you were 18 to 23 and you had nothing going on in your life, because you
Yesterday.
wouldn't go now. You wouldn't go now. You're an older man. You're married.
Right.
You wouldn't.
I would go yesterday.
Sure.
Yesterday.
Oh,
I
you would go yesterday.
Yeah. I would have spent the night.
No problem going. No problem
100%.
going. Okay.
My
wife didn't like that last statement, by the way. I apologize.
My wife hasn't texted me yet, but I'm waiting.
Well, but you're single. This is just conversation.
That's what I said. If you were
harmless.
single, I wouldn't go now.
I
don't need to. I got this bedroom. I don't need to go.
What's that bedroom do for it?
This specific role-playing bedroom. Remember, it's
right.
all part of the. Yeah,
that's
Dan
where you can take the stripper from the other room.
Correct.
I don't think
he
any
meets
of the
in the
wives
bar.
are enjoying this.
Dead.
If I don't know, because here's the thing. I don't think that I wouldn't go from a safety perspective. It kind of is what it is, right? I would go, but
you always have the risk of catching a disease going to a strip club, right?
I would think.
No,
Absolutely. Says the guy who goes to the champagne room. No,
I do not.
They do not serve champagne in there, do they?
That was a joke.
Yeah,
but,
no social distancing there. I joked. You've never
listen,
gone. No,
if somebody's got
I made that up.
a cold or the flu,
yeah, correct.
Right? I mean,
When I was 18, I remember somebody coughed on me there, and I got freaked out and I ran away.
Eek.
From where?
The strip club.
Oh, the mouth.
The mouth. If it was
okay,
I would have thrown up had it been something else.
Now we didn't have when we were young and single and wild and crazy. Let me ask you this, because I just saw in the UK they're banning having sex with anyone outside of your household. So in other words,
what I was just going to bring up. Yeah.
If you're not living with your partner, you may not be in your partner. Okay.
You say apartment or partner?
You can't eat both. Forget the apartment. You're not going in anywhere. Okay. But
yeah.
So now,
the UK is number 4 on the list of how many cases of COVID there are out there. But that's
is that like per capita?
Like yeah, I mean they're like they got the 4th most cases.
Don't you feel like though, if you're for young single people who have a lot of
18 to 23,
right? They have a lot of advantages that we didn't have back then, like all these sort of Tinder type things, right? Yeah. People are going to be super pent up by the end of this.
I would say that based on a couple of the websites I visit, if there's a stepmother in the house, then it's totally okay. That's apparently that's encouraged. Especially if she gets stuck in the dishwasher or something. It just
She orders a pizza.
Yeah.
Oh, where's the pizza? It needs fixing the cable.
The plumber comes over, you're all set.
Okay.
They got a lot of plumbing problems all of a sudden in UK. You can't leave, so you got to get the plumber. You got a plumber, you don't even have a wrench. You don't even have pants.
Interesting stepmothers. Yeah. Okay.
But how do they? I mean, so this is another interesting thing. So
how do you regulate that, by the way?
So I was just going to say.
Yeah.
So if I live in the apartment next to you, and I know you don't have a domestic partner, and I hear something going on through the wall, am I supposed to call the cops? I got an unlawful entry over here.
I hear people having sex, and it's not the normal person that's having sex in that room.
All right, I have a question now. What if there's a hole between apartments?
I'm sorry, that's
You don't live
something
together.
else.
You gotta wait.
So is that frowned upon?
A glory
Yes.
hole?
yeah. I wouldn't call it a glory hole. I don't know if it's glorious or not.
Let me ask
But
you a
if there was
question,
just,
Cam. You're so reticent to talk about these political hot button topics sometimes, but you're fine with this.
This makes my heart sing.
This
Uh,
really good stuff. Great.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I saw that headline that said no more sex, and I was worried. I didn't know what country it was in, so I was going to bring it up. So thank you for clarifying that it's not in this country. So everything's fine.
Well, don't you live with your wife?
Huh? What?
yeah. All right. Yeah. Perfect.
Correct. Just going to apply for credit here for the Ford truck that I want. Go ahead, guys.
You think this is a bad time to be dating?
To be dating?
Yeah.
I think
Like,
it's
seriously.
horrible. I think the social media apps have ruined the dating experience for sure. If that's
I'm
what
not talking
the
about
topic you want
that.
to
I'm talking about
if we want to go
COVID.
down that rabbit hole. Well, COVID sucks on top of that, yeah, for sure.
Right? I mean,
Especially in Great Britain, apparently.
Especially if you're in Britain, yeah.
Well, what do you do? Like, even if you're just starting to date somebody, you theoretically haven't seen them for 10 weeks.
Well, you're supposed to quarantine, right? You're supposed to be in lockdown and stay at
That's
home.
what I'm saying. I don't know if that's feasible or whatever, but I can't imagine.
You're remembering what it was like when you were 18? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I didn't see anybody
based on the way
either.
the
Nobody
show is
came
gone,
near me.
I'll be dating soon, so I'll let you guys know.
Yeah, ditto.
We're all gonna be picking up chicks at the Applebee's pretty soon.
Yeah.
That's how it's gonna go.
The drive-through strip clubs.
How does that? Has anybody seen? In all seriousness, how is that supposed to work? The drive-through strip club. I don't.
I saw
really
a couple pictures on the internet there. It's interesting.
From the normal website that you go to with set bombs?
Was somebody stuck in the dishwasher?
No. But you drive through and it's like a tunnel.
Sure.
And there's young women on either side of the vehicle, dancing. I'm not sure how if you throw like change out or how that works.
A squeezy.
You know, it'd be great
if
they washed it
go by
while you're going through there.
Yeah,
that
wash your car.
Great.
Perfect. This is combine them. Now you're talking.
Buff it out a little bit.
Yeah. All right. Good.
Cam, let me ask you a question, because I know that this is a topic that's near and dear to your heart. But since we've decided that COVID is over, will baseball get its crap together? Can we play baseball already, please?
No.
It's not going to happen, isn't it?
What, Dan? Repeat yourself.
Proposal today?
I don't think the union wants to go for it. They don't want the pay cuts.
Well, I guess the MLB has said that they'll go to 50 games, 5-0, and pay players a full prorated salary.
I mean, ridiculous. These guys, come on.
They're going to ruin this.
This is going to be awful. Let's just play the game.
NASCAR's back.
You know,
European soccer is back.
If Tom Brady can golf on national television, we can't get baseball going?
Well, Tom Brady tried to golf on national television.
Oh.
Hey.
Wow.
Well, you could tell who was busy working on their football game, and people like Peyton Manning were worried about playing golf, I guess. But the MLB, particularly the MLB players, they're going to ruin this, aren't they? They're actually going to screw this up.
Are.
I cannot believe it.
I was screwed. This is on the owners.
How is it on the owners?
The players are rejecting every offer that they've been given.
The owners are asking these guys to take massive pay cuts.
They're playing 50 games.
How can you guys go out there and say you're encouraging these guys to leave 30% of their money on the table?
Let me tell you something. I don't know about you.
They're going to play 30% of the season. Maybe even more.
Maybe less.
Up until today's deal, that was on the table. They were talking pay cuts on top of the prorated salary.
Well, the problem is that even if you don't have anybody in the stands, then nobody's making money. So how are you supposed to pay the players the same amount of money that they would make if nobody else is making money to pay the players?
You've signed a contract. That's what they're owed.
Right, but so in the contract, I'm sure it says act of God, and a plague would probably be an act of God saying this is all null and void. Under
I'll tell you, this is baseball comes into this in sort of a precarious position in the national sports landscape, where I think hockey is sort of on the verge of overtaking baseball at this point.
Ugh, I'll never watch
And
hockey.
this is the kind of crap that is going to ruin it for MLB. This is going to be like '94 all over again.
Ugh.
They have the opportunity to take the field right now. And listen, I'll tell you what. We just saw, by the way, happy birthday, Dad. My dad, Dan's dad as well. Same guy. He just had a birthday. So we got together to celebrate his birthday. And one of the things he was talking about was all of this sort of unrest and stuff in the country was like every night in the 60s. We've gone back to this time when there's so much uncertainty. There's so much misery. The death of this poor George Floyd and that video and the, weeks and weeks of COVID and the economic despair, the absolute shit that has been just dropped on this country. And Major League Baseball players have a chance to take the field and give people something to feel good about. And they're going to screw it up.
Dan, what do you say to that? Because I agree with Barry on this one.
I think that there's a middle ground that can be found here, but I think asking somebody to take a significant pay cut right now is not fair. These guys live to their means, right? So you buy a house that you can afford when you're making $2, $3, $4 million a year. You live a life you can afford. If you want these guys to start taking pay cuts, I think you're asking for trouble. And by the way,
you think the clubs are losing money?
The clubs are losing money.
John Henry's losing money?
No, I didn't ask you if John Henry's. I didn't ask you if John Henry's losing money. Are the clubs losing money? Are the clubs losing money? Yes.
Probably. So the employee loses money. By the way, the Washington Nationals have essentially released all minor leaguers. They're not paying their minor leaguers. The Red Sox have cut salaries on most of their staff. This isn't just the players that are taking a bath here. This is across the industry.
Right. So shouldn't the players also do exactly the same that everybody else in the industry is doing?
I think it is. If the players can come to an agreement, I think they should. However, I don't think it's fair to sit here and say they should be taking a pay cut. I'm not in the business of telling other people how to live their private money.
So the owners should take the hit. The club should take the hit.
Yeah, it's the price you pay, man. There's a risk with this. Major League Sports have been printing money for decades. The fact that it costs a family of four like $1,000 to go to a friggin' Red Sox game is ridiculous. I have no sympathy for the owners in this. I have none at all.
All right, so let's say that if a player doesn't agree to take the pay cut, then they don't have to play. And I'm sure a minor leaguer would love to fill in their shoes and get 100%. Half of their paycheck. And if so, let's get all the players together. Whoever wants to play can play, but you're going to take 30, you're going to take 50% pay cut, and you're going to play the rest of the season. And, there could be an asterisk on this season. Who cares? But
yeah, that's that.
Okay.
I'd rather watch the minor leaguers. I'd rather watch minor league players at this point. Get them back on the field.
I want to watch baseball.
Get rid of these a-hole major leaguers who can't be bothered to play a game at this point in history, and let's get the minor league players
don't show
out
up.
there.
Don't show up. Let somebody from AAA, AA come in, and they can play that 50-game season. Perfect. I'm done. I'm happy with that. Let's go. I'm out.
All right, let's get baseball back out there. Because it's going to be like 94. Baseball is going to suffer greatly because of this.
Yeah. And now there's not going to be a DH. Ugh.
1 minute left in the show, Cam. You got a final thought?
Yeah, keep the DH. Get rid of it. Get rid of it. Get rid of the DH. Do not keep the DH. Get rid of it. That's
we agree
not baseball.
On that.
Dude, that's not baseball. Final thought here?
Everybody be safe this coming weeks. A lot of tough stuff going on out there. Be smart, be safe.
I'll tell you what, it's gonna be a rough year, I think, for a lot of people, and I agree with you. Just be safe out there, be smart. And let's hope for some better days. I think this is one of these situations, as we talked about earlier, we all agree on what represents injustice right now, and I hope that we can rally around that. I hope that we can be safe out there. Follow us at Daily Shot Talks on Twitter. Don't forget to go to the YouTube channel and subscribe. Don't forget to find us on Facebook, and we will see you next time. This is Daily Shot Radio.
I bet we're still live, aren't we? I bet we're still live.
You guys there?
You guys there?
I bet we're still on. Oh, we're up.
We're done.